Mr. Ezekiel, excuse me. You indicated that you had you put the tracking system in place to try to quantify the numbers beginning in 2005, was it?
Beginning in 2005, the tracking mechanism with that form that we had developed in the specification went out to all construction projects in 2005.
Do you have any aggregate data from 2005 that you could share with us in terms of, percentages of materials recycled or total tonnages? Number one. And number two, I couldn't really read the details on the form, but I was just kind of curious whether or not, in terms of calculating tonnages, do you have sort of a standardized assumption in terms of weight per cubic foot of the materials to calculate? I mean, if you're pulling up, well, I think you get the gist of what I'm asking there. Yeah, if not, I can elaborate.
Yeah, the form it was kind of hard to read. To get to your first question, the numbers for 2005 have been submitted to the Waste Management Board for approval for the AB 75 report. So I don't have figures yet for that. I do know that it was the first year that it became a standard specification going to all construction projects. Yeah, contractors were not familiar with the form. Some of the REs were not familiar as to how to implement it and what to do with it. So we have hundreds of construction projects that were out there, and we were just getting a handful of these forms. So this next year we're going to go out and try to be a little bit more proactive in helping the resident engineers out in construction. So I think this year we'll be getting more of these forms in, and we'll be able to get a better number. While we were developing this specification, like I said, we were still using that form, but it was just going out to one construction project per district. And from looking at those, one construction project would generate a lot of waste debris that was being diverted from a landfill. So the system is working. We're just trying to get a little bit, fine-tuning it a little bit. So far, the contractor fills it out in either tons or cubic feet. I'm sorry, it was in metric, and now we're changing it over to standard English because Caltrans is switching over. But if it's not in tons, it'll be in cubic yards or cubic meters. And on the Integrated Waste Management website for AB 75, there are some conversion tables that we would use for concrete and asphalt to convert from volume to tons.
This is a question for Mr. Barrow. You mentioned that you use CalMax regularly as well as some other material exchange programs. And I wondered what you thought of the scope of CalMax as it applies to your business, and whether or not you thought it needed to be expanded in any way, or if it suits your needs as it stands.
I've put a few things on CalMax, large industrial lights, that sort of stuff that I've had extreme surplus of. CalMax has kind of turned into eBay. It's not really a free exchange anymore, from at least what I've read recently. A lot of it seems like there's prices put next to stuff, or if you contact that person, there's a price associated with the item they're giving. Craigslist, 100 times better. Craigslist, you put it on there, you have 50 emails by the end of the day, no matter what it is. Free.
Mr. Burrows, what are the rivers in the two rivers?
Sacramento American.
I have a question for Caltrans. I like your tracking the generation side of construction projects. Another key component is the procurement of buying recycled materials from off-site, like buying mulches and buying compost and buying base rock from other sources. Is Caltrans keeping track of any level of procurement of use of recycled product from off-site sources?
Certainly, there's the SABRAC report, which tracks that purchasing of recycled products. But again, like for a construction project where we're using recycled aggregate base for reclaimed material for our base material, we allow it. We allow the contractor to use 50%, even up to 100%. as long as it meets our gradation, we don't track it. We don't require them to submit us any documentation as to where this material is coming from.
Yeah, that's important. On the rack policy, that's great. Caltrans tracks that because the legislation was moving that issue forward. Recently, I've been sponsoring legislation on using base rock as well as mulches and compost. For the last 5 years, been trying to get information from Caltrans on use of recycled product, and there's been no tracking at all. So it'd be great if you guys were to expand your tracking system to do procurement as well in order to create public policy, because my membership produces a lot of base rock and mulches from off-site sources, and when we try to work with Caltrans on that, they don't have a clue on how much is being used in order to promote a good public policy on procurement.
I saw that you had the specifications for CMB up there, but can you tell me if Caltrans has a spec for asphalt shingles into the asphalt mix?
I don't believe that is allowed at this time, to use the asphalt shingles in our asphalt pavement. Some specifications, not for Caltrans, but it is allowed, like for parking lot use and other things. But when it's on a freeway with the high truck volume and high traffic volume, so far from tests, from what I've heard, we're showing that it wasn't working.
Because I've seen a number of states are moving that direction. I mean, even Texas is starting to use recycled asphalt shingles, and I would like to see Caltrans kind of move that direction as well, and see if we can figure out a way to make that happen.
Okay, I know who to ask on that.
Hi, for Adam Barrows. We are wondering how many homes did you say the development was, the Dell Web?
It was approximately 6,500.
6,500. And did you manage it looked like construction debris that was all just hauling?
Yeah, it was construction.
So you don't do construction, you just were handling the material from it.
Yeah, correct. We were handling, there are numerous contractors out there. There's 3 plumbing contractors managing at any given time. And so we were the waste hauler. So we had to become a franchised hauler for the city of Lincoln, and we owned and operated the material recovery facility. So even on the waste that we were hauling from those homes and the short distance into our facility and that we were hauling to the landfill, we did have to pay franchise fees on.
Thank you.
Glenn, I have a question for you. Did I hear you say that the City of Irvine, the City Council, was supportive of your efforts in requiring the diversion to be built into the plans for the design of the Great Park?
Yes, ma'am, you're correct. The City Council does support that effort on the base.
Can you speculate why? I've heard a lot of times city councils are not supportive of those kind of requirements of diversion. Can you speculate why maybe they were in this case?
It's tough always to speculate on why elected officials choose to do anything. But in this particular case, there's kind of a backstory here. Our agreement with the recycler who's going to do the runway recycling, a little more elaborate than this, but simply stated, is that they're tearing up all that material for free for us. So, but then they own the material, and then we buy it back from them at market minus, and obviously we're still negotiating what market minus means. But the one key component, I think, in that decision was that we were able to find, actually we went through a RFQ, RFP process, and we found not just one, but 5 different recycling firms who said to us they could pick up all that material for free. We got to give them about 60-acre recycling yard, and we got to give them some things to do that, but essentially we're getting the removal for free, which was a real benefit. And I think that was one of the things that made the council think it was a good idea to push forward with doing recycling. And
a big thank you for both of our panels, all the panelists. It was valuable information that I'm sure that will be useful to everybody. And thanks for making it a great success.